this one is kind of interesting. I've spent most of my career talking about telephony and being able to sell it on the ability and the things of saving money and return on investment. This is a little bit different. What we're doing today is how can we use unified communications, and we're going to move this down, how we can use unified communications along with the marketing machine to drive top-line revenue within your company or within your customers' companies. So we'll go through that real quick. Look at that, what our agenda is. We're going to go through some marketing trends, some research that's going on. Also, we're going to talk about inbound marketing versus direct marketing, and what is it, how you can use it, and then taking that inbound marketing, combining it with a unified communications platform to supercharge your marketing machine, okay? So, show of hands, how many people dislike getting cold calls? Yeah, pretty much everybody here. And anybody in the room, have you done cold calling before? Was it a good experience? No, I've done it and I hated it. And I think that today the point being is outbound marketing today is slowing if not dying. There are people out there doing cold calling that do a good job, but as you can see, there was some research done by Baylor University out of Texas recently, and they had some seasoned telemarketers, and they called over almost 6,300 people during this research time, and 72% of the time, the calls ended immediately. Typically, no thank you, click, on this when they received the call. Then, out of that though, there were 28% of those that were useful. Useful is defined as, well, they were nice enough to stay on the phone. And out of those, at 28%, in other words, 1,700 calls, there were only 19 appointments made, and out of those 19, there were 4 sales made. So imagine being a salesperson on the phone, dialing 6,000 plus times and getting 4 sales. That is a 0.06% success rate. That, as you can see, people want to make their own decisions and they don't want to be subject to outbound marketing. Well, it's also not only telemarketing is out of phase, but also TV ads. We have DVRs today that you just, when watching TV shows, skim right past, fast forward through commercials. Also, when receiving emails, 91% of the time, people are unsubscribing to those unsolicited emails. And I don't know about you, when I get a direct mail, something that's delivered by the post office into my mailbox, about 50%, if not more, end up in file 13, in other words, into the trash can. So people are just taking that direct mail in either trash can or the recycling bin is probably the best way to put it. And here in the United States, there are over 200 million people, which is more than 50% of the population, that are on the do not call list. So they do not want to be bothered by telemarketing people. They have actually taken steps to prevent being marketed to by telemarketers. So what do marketing people do today? Well, with the advent of Google and other things, they're using inbound marketing. And inbound marketing is set up a website, you work on your SEO such that you get your ranking on the Google searches of your keywords so that they come up ideally on the first page. Just a side note, you want your keywords to show up on the first page of a Google search. And the reason being is research has shown that very few people, about 86% of the time, most people do not go to that second page. So only 14% actually go to the second page or more of a Google search. Also, there's Google ads, Facebook, other type of social media, banner ads and things like that are drawing these, what I call strangers, to your website so that you can market to them. Once there, you got to have something to entice them to register them so that they become something other than a stranger, become a visitor. And what determines that is, let's say that you have some type of content like a white paper or a video that's of interest to them. They put their email address in and you capture that, and then they were able to get that content. Now that's an exchange of contact information for something that may be a use for them, but in that case it is free. Then on an ongoing basis, you got to deliver content. Content is king. And at Digium, we spend a lot of time on content. And I'll go through what different modes of content that are out there. But also being able to provide it at the right place at the right time. So generally you're in a mode of when people come to your website, they're probably somewhere between 40 to 60% into their research phase at that time. And when you reach out to them to talk to them about what interests them into your products or services, then it is no longer a cold call, it's a warm call, be it reaching out via email, via Twitter, or an actual phone call. I mentioned content is king. There's, as you can see out here, it's just a plethora of different types of content that you can get via websites. And at Digium, our top content is guides. One was top 10 reasons to use for your phone system, to make a decision in buying one. Videos is another good one. And the videos, I think is pretty natural with YouTube getting many hits per day that it does. People like to consume videos. And so we do a lot of short little videos on products and services that Asterisk tricks and things, and that draws these people into our website. We also do webinars, and the webinars are typically something that's on a thought leadership type of basis, such that provides knowledge to people that come to the website and builds branding for Digium and for confidence within the Digium products. You could do the same with yours. Now there's tons of others. One doing over here in orange is speaking engagements. That's another. But Digium also has something that we do that a lot of folks find very useful, and that's something free like Asterisk Now. Download Asterisk Now and be able to use that. Or on Switchvox Cloud, be able to use that try before you buy type basis. And those bring more and more customers in. Now, this new media is growing very, very quickly. Forrester came out with a report that talks about the spending of it, and as you can see, it's increasing. Today, this interactive type of marketing represents about just under 40% of the total spend, but it is growing and it's eating into the traditional outbound marketing. And as you can see, search marketing like Google is still growing at a good clip. Display advertising is growing, that's the banner ads is growing. But what's really growing right now is social media advertising, be it in Facebook, Twitter, things like that, Instagram. Then other things that's really starting to gain adoption is delivering content to mobile devices. If you have a mobile strategy, that's great. If you don't, then I would highly recommend to get one, because people are consuming more and more of their content via their mobile device. And as a result, more and more advertising or budgets are being applied to the mobile market. So now that we have an understanding what inbound marketing is, so inbound marketing, real quick, is providing information for free to folks that are looking for it, so they're coming to you at their own free will, and then marketing to them, warming them up to be able to reach out to them at some later date. And so you've got that marketing machine up and going. How can you use your phone system to supercharge your marketing program? And so today I'm going to go through 10 ways to do that, and using the unified communications to do that. There's I'm going to do it from a Switchvox standpoint. This is the product that Digium has, but also you could do this with Asterisk. If you have the skill, the time, and the capability to do it, then you would be able to create it from Asterisk as well. So for number one of how, one of the tips to supercharge your marketing with UC communications is have dedicated phone numbers, DIDs, for your campaigns. At Digium, we just launched SIP trunks. And wouldn't it be cool to be able to, from a marketing perspective, to see how our campaigns, we have different campaigns for this product launch, to see how they're doing. So we could actually, let's say, have marketing towards the Asterisk Now community, have a campaign towards the Switchvox community, and then set up 2 phone numbers for one for each, such that we know when people call in why they're calling, and also at a later time look at reports and see what was the success rate of one over the other. And the way to, real quick, within setting it up in Switchvox, it's pretty easy. Set up a rule name, it's a promo, have the inbound number, the DID, and then also where that call is going to be switched to. Number 2 is customizing the message. So we could actually have, using that same example about SIP trunks, I could have a unique message for the Asterisk Now guys and a unique message for the Switchvox guys. And so they're primarily very, very similar, but has a different twist on each one. So, and I can set up that message on hold while they're sitting there on hold, and such that it's unique. To do that within Switchvox, all I do is pick out the phone number, and then I also pick out the message, hit save, and it's that simple. Within Asterisk, you can do that very easily as well. Number 3, I'm sorry I haven't gone so fast. We've got a lot of these, and we've got a short period of time, but number 3 is unique call routing. And what I can do there is for each campaign, I can, once the call is coming in, I can route it to groups within the organization. And within, let's say in Digium, in my example, I want to be able to send it to the sales queue and maybe have multiple queues. But let's say also, though, if they're calling in and they hit the main number of Digium, they could also set up, we could set up an IVR. They use an IVR to hit 1 for sales, 2 for tech support. Once they get into, let's say they hit 1 for sales, to even have more granularity within the sales group, which group do they want to talk to about what product, so we can get them to a subject matter expert that understands their product and most likely their needs as well. Number 4, now that I've got the calls coming in to people, I can set up some queues, and I can have a Switchvox queue or an Asterisk Now queue within it, and also not only can I set those up, but I can set up the strategy. The strategy could be from a queue standpoint, ring all. I could have a round robin type of queue, and also I can put in, see down the bottom of the screen, who is going to be members of those queues. I have, in my example, I have two groups. In reality, these 2 groups, there's an overlap in between. There's a couple folks that kind of live in both worlds very easily. So I have a Asterisk Now group and a Switchvox group, and then I have a subset of people that live in both queues. Now I got my queues set up. When I send calls to these queues, I want to be able to tag the call as it comes in, when it goes into the queue, to say, this call is coming in on this direct number. It is part of a promo. And what I can do is I can pre-append something to the caller ID. I can replace the caller ID, or I can append something to the end of the caller ID, so that when it comes into the agent, they understand that that person calling them is calling them about a promo. And the way in this particular example here, I'm pre-appending something to the caller ID, and then when that call comes in, the agent will see that it's part of an April promo caller that's calling them. Now, we could also do something that's pretty cool. where in the ear of the agent, before the call is transferred to them, they could actually say, this caller is from calling about the April promo. So to actually have something audible that they hear versus seeing something on the screen, or you could do both. Number 6 is to easily integrate with CRM systems. You get calls coming in, and it's really valuable to integrate with a CRM, be it with Salesforce.com or the open source version, which is Sugar CRM. Maybe even have a Google map, so when they call, to give you a reference to say they're calling from Dallas, Texas, it drops a pin on a Google map when that caller comes in, things like that. And this is very helpful to provide context to the agent that answers the call of who is calling. If it's somebody that's been to the website several times, you can see what they've been downloading, what they've been viewing on the videos, and it gives you some context of why they may be calling. If it's an existing customer, what products they have they talked to tech support, what issues they may have had, so it gives you almost a 360-degree view of what's there, and that's all within when the call comes up. And then number 7. Oh, go ahead. For the CRM? Oh. You can set it up to do something like that, yeah. So that would... Yes. So the question is, based upon the call, be able to route it to the right person? Did I get that right? CRM. So you could build in some logic to do that based on the CRM. And to give you an example, within Digium, let's say that we have a customer that's Switchvox, a Switchvox customer. And so we have a pre-sales, we have like someone within customer care. And it's not a tech support, but it's kind of like after the sale. So we see that coming in, and it'll get them to the right person. Okay. Now, one of the things to help with the marketing is having reports. And reports are great for measuring your campaigns, seeing how it's successful, your campaigns, and not only from a marketing perspective, but also how effective the sales group is doing as well. And you can have very detailed reports pulling them out of Asterisk, or create them from Asterisk, or within Switchvox, there are mini can reports that are very helpful for determining the success of a campaign. And I don't know about you, but when we set up our inside sales group, I was manager of the group for a period of time, and going in, and even though it's real easy with Switchvox and it's not that hard with Asterisk, just going and doing it was, took time out of the day. Wouldn't it be great if there was a way to do no touch? In other words, it would email the report. I set it up once, and it emailed me periodically the results. And in my case, I got them at the end of every day, and so I knew, who the agents that were taking the calls, and also, should I increase the number of people within or reallocate folks? So it was very helpful in being able to do that. So, and we didn't have to call an IT person, didn't have to call the business operations guy. It would just email to me. So it made my life as manager very easy. The way to set that up is just, very easy as well. As I set up here is to say what days I want these reports, what I want in the reports, and then and hit save, and then they're emailed to me. Instant visibility. As you're running your sales team that's handling this marketing campaign, you want the ability to see, if you got multiple queues. Let's say in my example, I have an Asterisk Now queue and a Switchvox queue. If the Asterisk Now gets overrun, it'd be great to pull people from one queue and put them into the other queue. And you can do this with some other platforms that tie to Asterisk, but you can also do it with Switchvox, where you can see who's on the calls, how many people are on hold in the queue, how many people have abandoned the calls, which is not good. That means they've got tired of waiting. So we need to add more people. We do it within switchboard or on the phone itself. Then also using monitoring tools to ensure quality interaction. And what I mean by that is two things. One is, let's say that I'm a new salesperson and I need some help. You know, it's technically over my head. I can love to be able to look on my screen and be able to see that one of my system engineers is available. Let's say that John Fisher is a system engineer in the top right-hand corner. I would love to be able to pull him into my call and help with the technical aspects of the sale. And so the presence is important from that standpoint. Also coaching. Coaching for us at Digium is we record the first 10 days of a new salesperson's calls after they've been trained, of course. And so we use that, we review some of those recordings with those folks to figure out what they do know and what they don't know and help them fill in the gaps. And so we use that as a good coaching opportunity. And that really works well. And we also have the ability with Switchvox, and you can also do this with Asterisk, is the ability to instantaneously click on a button, listen to a live call between salesperson and prospect on the other end. And also, even take those steps further is to see, not only hear the conversation, but whisper into the salesperson's ear and tell them about a promo without the prospect on the opposite end hearing that whisper. Or even taking a step further and barging into the call and said, hey, I just overheard your conversation. I don't mind if I jump in. Maybe I can answer your question. So not only can you listen to the call, you can whisper to the call or barge into the call. And this would provide a better, ideally, if done correctly, would provide a better experience for the customer. Okay. That gives you a top 10. It's kind of like a David Letterman top 10 list of how to use your unified communications platform to supercharge your marketing program. Are there any other questions? Yes. All those are in standard, yes. All the features come within Switchvox that we went over. You don't have to pay extra. Yes, for both. For cloud and as well as premise-based. It's the same software. It's just one's in the cloud and one's on the appliance. Yes? Well, today with Switchvox, it's done with Salesforce.com. We have integration with Salesforce.com. There's also some third parties that have done integration with the APIs of Switchvox with Microsoft Dynamics is another. But there is some Switchvox APIs that if you have the capability that you could use those APIs to go into your back office database to pull information. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much for attending. Thank you.
I'll give a shameless plug too. The Digium booth will be part of the exhibition hall, and if you'd like to see a live demo of Switchvox, please stop by. And we'll be happy to go through it with you.
Okay, thank you.
School system. So they're going to be talking to you today about UC solutions and education. So I'll let David take it away.
Okay, thanks, Julie. As Julie mentioned, we got Troy Augustin from Clark County. Clark County's here in Las Vegas, and Ken here is with Casper College. Yes. That's right. And we want to be able to share with you some of the experiences and good and bad that they've used as try to solve their telecommunications needs. So just go ahead and get kicked off here. Got guys, could each one of you tell everyone here a little bit about Casper College, for example, and your role there, how many phones you got deployed, a little bit about the architecture?
Sure. I'll kick it off. Yeah, again, I'm Kent Brooks with Casper College in Casper, Wyoming. Casper College is about 4,500 students. We have transfer and vocational degrees. We currently have our solution running on HP 7000 Blade servers. We have about 600 phones, Digium phones, and we have another 150 analog devices, faxes, fire panels, elevator, and the farm tech program, for example, is still running on some analog. The pharmacy tech program is still running on some analog phones because, frankly, it was just too much trouble to rewire the whole thing. And that's the gist of what we're doing.
Clark County School District. That actually is here in Las Vegas. We have about 35,000 telephones. We're the 5th largest school district in the United States. We have 318,000 students. We've got 360 locations over almost 8,000 square miles. So we're in the middle of transitioning right now. We're going from an Alcatel-Lucent system to an Asterisk system. Right now we have about 25 total sites that have Asterisk out of 360, and we've got about 2,000 phones out of the 35,000 that have gone over to Digium telephones. And hopefully within the next 4 or 5 years, we'll be able to transition everything to a pure Asterisk site. We're using HP servers, 380 DLs. Yeah, so that's what we're doing. We've got our own dark fiber, so that's very handy.
Okay, great. Could you tell us a little bit about how the call flow works?
In our situation, the incoming calls come to an AdTran gateway, are delivered to the Switchvox. The main number is transferred to an IVR. For outgoing calls, we transfer local calls to the gateway, and then via PRI, and then we also for long distance we utilize SIP trunks.
Okay.
We have basically we've divided our 360 locations into 15 sub-networks, and in each one of those sub-networks we will have, they average about 20 to 30 schools or administrative locations per sub-network. So each one of those groups of 20 or 30 sites will have 2 locations that have PRIs, and we'll have all the incoming, we'll have everything divided in half. So half the sites will come to one location, half the sites will come into another location, and then if the call fails there, it'll fail over to the secondary location. So we try to have redundancy with our PRIs and with outgoing and incoming telephone calls. Like I said, we're using PRIs. We're transitioning over from the Alcatel system to the Asterisk system where we're using like DOTI boards. And then we're using the PRI boards that Digium has. Because right now we're getting a better price on that than SIP trunks. So we're still PRIs as well.
Okay, great. Ken, could you tell us a little bit about your challenges that led to the switch from your old solution to Switchvox?
Sure.
And you may want to.
Sure. We were running a legacy Avaya system. We had about 700 phones sitting there, and we also had 92 phones running on Cisco Call Manager Express. There were some of those decisions. This is the standard line. Those decisions were made before I showed up. How's that? We'll we'll go with that. But you know, as we started exploring our options, and you know, one of the options was to expand that Cisco infrastructure, and we looked at it, and you know, it was a little bit cost prohibitive. I suppose that may be the understatement of the day, but there were some challenges there. You know, the Avaya stuff in terms of getting maintenance and support, everything's aftermarket or third party, and so, you know, we were looking at something. And I had been in a situation where I was able to roll out a smaller Digium deployment, and so had a little bit of background there. So was somewhat familiar walking into it. You know, we had some challenges with our networking infrastructure. We had to, you know, deal with that first of all. But anyhow, those were some of the things we were looking at as we begin heading into this process.
Well, we were looking at, you know, all of our systems aging. They're 10, 12 years old. Some of the equipment that we have is end of life. So we were looking at what is the next step that we go to. One of our departments came to us and said, hey, we need an IVR. We said, okay. We went to our previous vendor. They said, okay, $65,000. We're like, what other solutions are there out there? So we had them buy us a small server. We installed Asterisk ourselves. Okay, here's your IVR. Hey, this stuff works great. And it's a lot less expensive. And also we were paying per port license for maintenance fees on our previous system. And when you have 40,000 ports out there, because of course we have to have extras because we never know when somebody will turn around and move, you know, okay, we're going to move 100 people into this building, which has happened to us on more than one occasion. We have to be ready, so we needed more ports than we actually used. And the licensing on that annual licensing was $765,000 a year. We're a school district, the recession hit us. We needed to find a more economic way to do things. So here we are.
Awesome, great. How did your purchasing process work? You know, like who were the key people that were helping making the decision, those type of things?
You know, we probably did this a little bit differently than we normally do. I mean, you know, almost any situation we start out with an RFP. You know, we build the requirements, and you know, it goes out that direction. We're sitting on 2 phone systems though, and we really decided to chase another route that our purchasing rules allowed us to do, and so we built out a proof of concept in this particular instance. You know, it really was, we installed, you know, the Digium solution, and so we were running it parallel. So we were really running 3 phone systems at one time. We set up a test environment within our department. Really, it started with about 20 phones. 20 phones, and actually there was one little application that we had for the library. They needed a new intercom system. I think the primary use was to announce that the library's closing, but anyway, maybe they use it for more than that. And so we rolled out the 20 phones, the intercom system, did a proof of concept, which really was a longer process than doing an RFP. The RFP, you know, would have been over the course of, you know, several weeks. This really took several months. And so once we did that, we were able to, start adding systems. We made our decision and we started adding systems. So the proof of concept, again, really pretty unusual in terms of buying enterprise-based systems, but that we were allowed to do that in this particular case.
I see. Troy?
We're kind of, because we are considered a state agency, we have a lot of rules that we have to go through for procurement and everything. But one thing that we were able to do is we were able to, you know, as I said, we had proof of concept. We said, okay, this equipment works. So I was able to go to my superiors, demonstrate, hey, this works, tell them how much it costs, they're happy. And then before I go out to bid for equipment, I have to say where the money's coming from that I'm going to buy that equipment with. Otherwise, we can't even go out for bid. So I convinced my superiors to get rid of our maintenance contract, that $765,000 that we were basically flushing down the drain. And I said, let me use that money to buy new equipment, and then you don't have to come up with any additional funds. They said, okay. So I was able to go to my purchasing department, and instead of going out for an RFP, we were just able to go out for an actual bid, where I say, I want X number of telephones, X number of analog boards, X number of PRI boards, and we specified Digium equipment. We tested it. It worked well. But because of state rules and purchasing rules, we had to say, or equivalent. So that just goes out for bid, and then anybody who wants to bid on it can bid on it, and then comes back, and price is the number one factor when go through the official purchasing process. And oddly enough, the Digium equipment did come in as the lowest price. So we got what we were asking for at the lowest price.
Great. Do you guys have any deployment obstacles that you had to overcome?
Network. We pretty much ran a network upgrade, parallel to this rollout, and so our timetable for the rollout was dependent upon our network upgrades, to PoE, and so we scheduling and network would probably be the two biggest things for us, because again we're rolling out new network in different areas on campus, and we had to get some of that infrastructure in place prior to putting out, phones.
Mm-hmm.
I will echo the network part. We have brand new schools that are less than 5 years old. That's got a great network. It has a dedicated voice over IP port. We have our own LAN, VLAN, subnets. Everything's great. And we have schools that are 50 years old. We even have a 100-year-old school that's just a two-classroom school. It's a historic site. So we never know what sort of facilities, well, we know what sort of facilities, but we have to be able to, okay, here we're going to have a great network. Okay, here we're just going to be doing what we can with what we have, putting stuff in line with PCs, no sort of VLAN for us. And so that's the challenge of going between our different networks.
Okay, great. Are there any features that your users today are enjoying that they didn't have in the past?
Integrated voicemail. Users love the fact that they love the fact they can push a voicemail to their email. That's one that we've gotten back. Just little functionalities on the phone, just being able to rewind a portion of a voicemail and listen to only a portion of it instead of the entire thing. Access to the web services to change and adjust contacts to whatever. We also provide basically a self-serve. We're basically providing self-service conferencing to everybody. So anybody who needs conferencing services has access to it. And just overall flexibility for the users. They're generally pleased. We haven't gotten a whole lot of pushback on it, anything at all.
That's good. Makes life a little bit easier for you.
Life is good.
Troy, how about you?
We've actually been able to customize some things for ourselves, especially when it comes to the area of safety. And one thing that you might be surprised in the school system is 911 gets called a lot, and they don't know where the call came from in the office. Now, our system, the way we have it set up, we have our own school police, and they have a dispatch center, and we route all the 911 calls through that dispatch center where they can listen to the call. They're not a PSAP, so they can't answer the call, but they can listen to the call and knows what's going on. And oftentimes the PSAP will call the school back and say, hey, You just got a 911 call. They're like, what, where, how, why? They don't know. Whether it's somebody who actually has a problem or whether it's Johnny down the hallway dialing 911 and laughing and running away. Well, now if somebody dials 911, instantly the designated stations that we have, principal, office manager, secretary, that sort of thing, the phone rings, they pick up the phone, and there's a voice telling them, a 911 call has just been dialed, a 911 has just been dialed from extension 1234. So they know instantly a 911 call has just been made, and they can go and they can address that situation, whether it is, a real emergency or whether it's a student that needs to be corralled and disciplined. They know what's happening right then and there in real time, and they really, really like that.
Cool. Are there any features you'd like to see in Switchvox, in your case, Asterisk?
One of the things that we've looked at when we're pushing out, say, a name change, being able to pool those changes, I suppose, was one thing we've talked about. Pushing the change to all 600 phones, creates a little more pressure and time on the system, and so that's one thing. I think when you're pressing the reboot, and when you're trying to reconfigure the phone, I think you can press any key, and that's caused a little bit of confusion amongst our users. We've talked about some of the out of the box solutions aren't really necessarily prepped for larger deployments. In terms of going to Digium, for what you guys are doing would be pretty hard. It'd be really hard to do what you guys are doing, and so those are some of the things that that we've seen.
That's good feedback.
Maybe as challenges.
Thanks. How about on Asterisk, Troy?
Maybe native SNMP traps. That might be helpful for those of us who are trying to manage 360 systems all at the same time. We're using some open source software, and we can get some traps from the servers itself. Maybe some actual Asterisk information would be cool.
Okay, that's also good feedback. As far as any tips that you could give to folks here in the audience rolling out a Switchvox or Asterisk-based system, what kind of tips would you recommend?
Communicate early and often. Set up a training program. My president always made fun of me because I always said we're having phone training, and he'd say, "Yeah, I'm going to go to phone training." So sure, and so and naturally I got back at him a couple times because I walked into his office for one of my meetings with him, and he says, "Say, how do you do this?" And I mentioned the fact that we had training coming up in a couple days. And it was a lot of, it's not a lengthy training. There's a lot of 15, 20-minute sessions. So I would say set up an extensive training program. Keep the sessions short. It's not like it takes a whole lot of time. And when you think you're done training, train people some more. And so, we did that in terms of group sessions in our, what we call the Center for Excellence, the Training Center. We also provided one-on-one training sessions, and that was a key. And so we kept people updated. We had a deployment site where we talked about some of the reasons for doing it, making this change. And so, we did a pretty good job of communicating and keeping people updated. And so, training and communications are the things that I would suggest more than anything.
Okay. Troy, how about you?
I would suggest not being afraid of Asterisk and setting up a lab system, going at it, and just talking to other people, whether it's, the forums online or, just this week I found out a couple other school districts that have done Asterisk or are looking at doing Asterisk, comparing notes, talking, just that sort of thing, not being afraid, just get in there. Because once you start doing it and start getting into it and see how powerful it is and how much you can do with it, then you just keep going and going and going.
Great. Well, that's all the questions I have. Does anyone in here have some questions? Do you have?
You know, we sort of set up the conferencing approach with that in mind. It's not really been used, but you know, right at this point, the way it's set up, you could, if you can use the conferencing function, you know, you could. I think we have basically 150 slots available to be used simultaneously at this point. We can upgrade capacity, you know, at any moment. So, you know, we've started suggesting that for audio conferencing, and that would probably be the primary thing that we would be using it for in terms of the actual education process. But again, like I say, it's self-serve, and we're going to watch capacity, and it's really not that big a deal to add capacity. So if it catches on, we'll really be able to add capacity almost ad hoc, you know. We have not. That's, I mean, maybe a couple of discussions on that, but I mean, I think it's doable, yeah.
Yeah. Most of our stuff is also based around conferencing. We have some groups where we will be transitioning right now. There are homebound students, so we'll go ahead and we'll actually call the student's house. You know, they'll answer, and then a teacher will conduct class across the phone with students who are homebound. That is the sort of thing, because when it comes to, you know, they've gone more to web classes, they've gone more to, you know, posting videos type of thing, not just audio recordings for classes, and now learning management systems and that sort of thing, content is exactly. So they're going more towards the learning management systems and that sort of content.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. These guys will be up here for a few minutes after if you'd like to meet them, talk privately. But again, Troy and Ken, thank you very much for being on our panel, and thank you again for attending the session.
Thank you.